I hooked up with a student while moving my niece to college. I will try to keep this short, but I've been told I tend to ramble, so apologies in advance. This could probably be in TIFU, but part of me does not think it's in FU. Around 13 years ago, my sister and her husband died in a car crash, which left their 5-year-old daughter, who I will call Molly, parentless. My mother stepped up to take care of Molly, with me helping out as well. I would say my mom did 70% of the parenting while I did 30%. With my mom doing way more in the early years, with me picking up more slack as my mom got older and I got more mature/capable. I was 24 at the time when my sister died. I ended up moving into the same building as my mom and niece, which made CO parenting easier, and I also took afternoon/evening shifts, as my mom worked normal 9 to 5 hours, so that there was always someone around for Molly. I don't regret these decisions and loved having Molly in my life, but the crappy work shifts and caring for her did impact my social and dating life. So I have not have any real long-term girlfriends. By the time Molly was old enough to be on her own at home, COVID hit, and well, any plans of being social or dating was off the table again. And because of my lack of dating experience, my confidence was pretty low. I guess this is all an excuse/explanation for the potential FU. So back in September, my niece went off to college. My mom is a super planner and have everything worked out. Hotels booked, restaurants reserved, activity itinerary printed. The college is about 3 hours drive away, and my mom being a senior meant she didn't want to make it a one-day thing, so we had a whole weekend planned. Then a week before my mom sprains her ankle, we originally thought it might be broken, and couldn't go. Therefore the trip just going to be my niece and I. On the Friday I take her down to her dorm and are greeted by housing staff and upperclassmen helping moving kids in. The original plan was for all 3 of us to take a tour of the campus and go to this fancy restaurant my mom had found. Well, I can be oblivious at times, but once my niece and I had gotten all her stuff in her room, it was pretty clear that bonding with her new student mates was of more interest than hanging with her uncle. So I told her I'd go wander the campus and check in about dinner. I had an interest in the college's architecture, which is true, which I said aloud to not make my niece feel guilty about wanting to ditch me. Well, one of the students, let's call her Sarah, who was moving kids, and mentioned that she does an architecture tour for parents. So I take her up on this. For the next hour and a half, Sarah, who is doing her Masters of Architecture, takes me and a few other parents on this tour. I start nerding out because when my niece and I did research for which colleges she wanted to go to, I read a few things about this college's unique building designs. The tour winds back at the dorm and I connect with my niece, and immediately I can see she is feeling guilty. It turns out there are a bunch of concerts and events planned for the freshmen, so she wants to bail on dinner. And of course there are, but my mom, who never went to college, didn't factor that into the plans. The tour guide hears our conversation and after my niece leaves tells me that I should still go to the restaurant as it's really worth checking out as it's her favorite. As I mentioned, I am a bit oblivious. Well, I guess she figured that out and invited herself to the dinner, which is when I realized she might have been flirting with me. I figured dinner for 2 is better than eating alone. So I said sure. She said her volunteering duties were done for the day anyway. We go for dinner and Sarah is charming and funny. It turns out she is 23 and makes sure to know that she does not live in the same dorm as my niece. She is in graduate student housing and was voluntold to help on moving day. She then admits the architectural tour was something she just made up on the spot because she thought I was cute. She kinda apologized for being so forward but realized I was not picking up on her hints. After a few glasses of wine, her suggestion we go back to my hotel was not something I could say no to. Despite being out of practice, things went quite well that night. The rest of the weekend went back to normal scheduling, as I took my niece and her student mates out for lunch and then to pick up groceries and supplies. My niece does not have a driver's license. She still has some fears of driving because of her parents' death. I drove back home the next day and felt a mixture of joy and guilt over my encounter with Sarah. I know how many people view older men, 37, and younger women, 23, as problematic and gross. I questioned if I did the right thing, am I going through a midlife crisis, etc. Also, I don't really have people to talk about it with. My close friends are all married to great women, and while maybe some of the guys would overlook the age difference, I know most, if not all, of the women would be disgusted and judge me. And I'm not sure if this makes things worse or better, but I have stayed in touch with Sarah. We have kept in touch by text/email and seen each other twice more in person. Once when she came to the city where I live for a work conference, opting to stay at my place over a hotel, and the second time when I drove my fully recovered mom to visit my niece. While my niece was introducing her friends and showing off the campus to my mom, I snuck away to meet up with Sarah. Yeah, that was risky, sketchy, and stupid, I know. Sarah has made it clear though that this is not a long-term thing, as she plans to move across the country once she is done school. I think, rightfully, she sensed I was becoming too invested in her, and when she visited my city she set me up on a few dating apps. So while she is not the love of my life, she has helped me get out of my shell and given me my confidence back, which is why I can't call this a foo. Comment. Dude, I wouldn't sweat it at all. It sounds to me like the young lady in question did all of the pursuit in this situation. From what you said, you didn't groom her or stalk her, or anything of the sort. Maybe I'm weird, but this might be super wholesome. She initiated it, you didn't stalk or groom her. I actually really appreciate her setting you up with dating apps. She seems like a good soul and you've done no wrong here, my friend. Don't feel creepy. She seemed more than willing and very mature. She's in graduate school and 23. She's not a naive college freshman, which is where I thought it was going based on the title. She seems to be reading the situation well and helping you jumpstart your dating life again. She pursued you, and as long as you continue to respect her boundaries, you will not be a creep in her eyes. It was consensual. No shame there. That said, I'm 37, and I just graduated last May. One of my school friends is 23, and I could not imagine hooking up with anyone his age. 1, I'm married. 2, I was around him since we were both freshmen, so there's that. 3 babies. College-age folks seem so real young. A grad student is likely to seem less babyish, though. LOL. You're in the clear. Sarah is a grad student, a grown woman who made her own choices. It sounds like she got as much out of your fling as you did. Now that you have your confidence up, I would start going on casual dates, probably with women closer in age to you, and you now don't have the duties of full-time parenthood holding you back from committing to a relationship. Probably don't tell your mom or niece about why you've decided to start dating and just leave it at being an empty nester. Woman here. I don't think you've done anything wrong. You didn't harass her for sex, she approached you. You aren't pushing her to drop her plans for finishing her master's and moving away. You're 2 consenting adults in a FWB situation. Sounds like it's helping you to open yourself up to possibilities too. I wouldn't worry about it. Enjoy what you've got going on and make sure to use protection. Just like the other people have stated above, I don't see as creepy. You were mature and someone who has respected boundaries of others. Sarah pursued you, and I like to think that she helped you during your personal growth. Sarah is the reason why you will thrive in your dating life. Use protection, continue to seek consent from both parties, and making sure that each of you are giving a positive experience. I don't see nothing wrong with that, mate. Story 2. Probably one of the worst cheating stories ever. I feeling nothing? I'm numb. I decided to finally get this off my chest, even though this happened fairly. I'm a stay-at-home mom, or at least I was. I had my first child with my partner, a beautiful baby boy, back in May of this year. The new addition to our little family, including his daughter from a previous relationship that I took care of as my own and refers to me as mommy. I was so excited to have a family of my own. I've worked most of my life, including my entire pregnancy, so being a stay-at-home mom was very new to me. In the beginning it was extremely challenging, but eventually I got the hang of it. My partner would handle majority of the bills and expenses while I'd take care of the kids, housework, dinner, and make his lunches for work. My partner worked overnight shifts, so on top of taking care of the children, I was in charge of waking him up for work, which wasn't an easy task at all. Much like a child, he'd throw fits and yell as I attempt to wake him alarm after alarm, all the while I cook dinner and get the kids ready for bed. Eventually he'd wake up, but not late, it'd be too late, because then it'd be my fault. I will say my partner was mostly faithful, with some slip-up where I'd catch texts of him flirting with coworkers or old flings, and we had one big cheating incident a few weeks before I went into labor. Why I stayed? I don't know. Helplessness? Wanting a family of my own like I never had? I don't know. Maybe. After the birth of my son, things seemed to be getting better. My partner worked hard and was promoted twice in less than a year, bringing in more money to our household and boosting his ego. I continued to do my part: cook, clean, make his lunch, and wake him for work. One night I'm doing my usual routine cooking, making his lunch, and then I wake him for work. But this time something felt off. My intuition was telling me something. I tried to fight these thoughts, but I just couldn't. That night after he left for work, I went for my usual run after I put the kids to bed, having my sister look after them. I'd run through our apartment complex and to a trail not too far. Shockingly, while on my run, I saw my partner's car parked at different part of our complex and my heart sunk into my chest. Why was he here? He said he was going to work. I checked my phone and lo and behold, his location was turned off. Funny enough, we only shared locations as his idea to prove his loyalty to me. He comes home earlier than usual the next day. I act clueless, I don't know what to think. He comes in bearing gifts, but I could hardly make eye contact because my mind is racing with suspicion. As he showers like clockwork, I check his phone. To my surprise, I see text messages between him and young lady who lives in the same apartment building as us. He's telling her how he's on his way to her to give her a vitamin D. They just met the day before. My heart sinks. He had me wake him up, make him lunch, and look me in my eyes and said he was leaving for work. This was the ultimate betrayal. How could he do this? I hear the water stop. I quickly jump and put the phone back where I found it. This is where I go completely numb. He hops out the shower talking to me normally. I act oblivious and ask him about work. He says it was any easy night. I bet it was. Another day passes. It's time for him to go to work again. This time I check his phone before because I had that same feeling again. And like last time, he was pretending again. So I played along. I made his lunch extra special this time. I seasoned every dish with as much Morton salt as I could. I filled his fancy flask with dishwater. I made his sandwiches that he loves so much with spit and old fish grease. I kissed him goodbye and told him I loved him with so much excitement. Later that night, when I went on my run and saw his car parked once again in the same spot, I lost it. I went upstairs to our apartment and grabbed every messy condiment I could find and I decorated his car. I filled it with the trash he'd been neglecting to take out. Dirty Pampers, rotten tissue, waste, etc. I blacked out. I couldn't wait for him to see the mess I made. It could be worse. This is the beginning of when you break a person. Comment. Our stories are similar, and quite frankly, I'm proud of you for doing what you did. It's not like you bashed the windows or slashed the tires. It's trash. In my opinion, I think it was pretty classy of you in comparison to what you could have done. The fact that he expects you to make him lunch all while he's planning to go cheat. He really was asking for more. I would have kicked him in the testicles. It's hard adjusting to being a stay-at-home mom. I was taught never to let a man have that much power over me. But I did it for the same reasons you did. A family? And he threw it in my face. Do not do this. Destroying or breaking shared property is a recognized form of domestic abuse and is punishable by law at the minimum a misdemeanor. Doesn't matter if he's the bad guy, an act like this can be weaponized against the hurt partner. If you are married, divorce the cheater immediately. If living together, break off any non-kid related contact immediately. Out him completely to everyone as well as her if you have the info on her. Enjoy the things you did in the moment. I thought they were wonderful, but you might want to restrict yourself to legal remedies from here on out. A concentrated and continuous campaign of stuff like that, while deserved, will only paint you as the crazy ex and garner him sympathy. Stay strong. This will suck, then it'll get better, but slowly. Next time when you get that feeling, tell him you're going for your run a little early, but have a good night at work. Oh, his flask, of course, just in case you're wrong. Then run over to her building and hide and see which apartment he goes into. Give them 15 to 20 minutes to get cozy and then either start banging on the door or call the cops and tell them you're pretty sure you saw someone get in your husband's car with him and force him into this apartment. Can they do a wellness check? They will knock. Get them to th door SND. You will be standing behind the cops smiling.